Good morning, boys and girls. Now, probably you're wondering why your English teacher is wearing makeup and flowers on his head today. Well, that is because I am not your English teacher. I am a pixie, a Dartmoor pixie. And Dartmoor pixies are small, magical creatures that love flowers. And today I'm going to read you a Dartmoor pixie story. So listen well and enjoy. The story is called The Tulip Garden. In the evening, the weather on Dartmoor was even worse. Rain fell from big, dark clouds, and the wind was strong and cold. After their hot baths, Lucy and Maya found warm clothes and went downstairs to the kitchen. "Good evening, princesses," said Grandpa. "How are you feeling after your adventure?" "Much better," Lucy said. Maya nodded. "Come and have a nice cup of tea," said Grandma. "Yes, and don't wander around the moor tomorrow," Grandpa said. "Now, after dinner, we can have some cocoa and watch a DVD. Or I can tell you an old Dartmoor story. What do you say?" "Story, story," both girls shouted. After dinner, they all sat in armchairs in front of the fireplace with big mugs of hot cocoa. "You know Merryvale, Lucy?" Grandpa asked. "Yes," Lucy answered. "It's the village near here." "Right. And have you ever seen that old ruin just outside the village?" Grandpa asked. "You mean that ruin where the ground is always brown? Where there's never any grass?" "Yes, that's the place." "Well, this is an old story about it," said Grandpa. "Many, many years ago, in the village of Merryvale, there was a pretty little cottage with a beautiful garden. An old woman lived there all alone, but she was never lonely. The village children often came to visit her, and she was friendly to all the animals and birds on the moor. She left food and water for them in her garden, and that's how many of the birds got through the winter. The old woman loved her garden and worked in it all the time. It was full of the prettiest flowers. One night, when she was very tired and already in bed, she thought she heard the sound of music in her garden. She got up. When she looked out of the window, she couldn't believe what she saw. There, on the grass, was a group of pixies. Pixies are little magic people, like me, little magic people of the moor. They are kind to people who are friendly, but make a pixie angry and see what happens. Now, the pixies danced in the old woman's garden that night because she was friendly and kind to all the animals and birds. The pixies played music on the grass, and the old woman saw that even her tulips moved with the music. When she looked more closely, she saw that there was a baby pixie in every tulip. The babies were all asleep. The old woman was so happy that the pixies liked her garden. "This is an honor for me," she thought. "I must make sure that I always have lots of tulips in my garden for the pixies and their babies." One night, after many happy years with the pixie dances in her garden, the old woman died. Then an old man from a nearby town moved into her cottage. He didn't like flowers or grass in the garden. "Why do I need flowers and grass?" he asked. "I can't eat them." So he grew vegetables instead. he didn't like birds or animals either. "The birds and animals only want to eat my vegetables," he said. So he put a fence around the garden. Life got hard for the birds and animals on the moor. The pixies had no place to dance, and no beds for their babies, and they weren't happy. No, the pixies were very angry with the old man. "Nothing is ever going to grow in this garden," they said. Every year after that, the new vegetables that the old man planted died. Nothing grew in the garden, not even grass. The old man left the cottage, and nobody moved in after him. Now the cottage is just a ruin on the moor. But the pixies didn't forget their friend, the old woman. No, at every full moon they went to her grave and sang and danced there. And people say that every year, on the day that the old woman died, tulips suddenly appear on her grave. I hope you liked the pixie story. What do we learn from the pixie story? You must be nice to birds and animals and flowers, or terrible things will happen. Goodbye, my darlings. Pixie greetings to you all.